Hello, everyone, and welcome to our annual UCLA Tarjan Center Forum in Neurodevelopmental Disabilities. I'm Dr. Jasper Estabillo, the Director of Training for the UCLA Tarjan Center, and it is my pleasure to be here with y'all today. A couple notes before we get started. To begin, regarding language, there are differences in preferences between identity first and person first language in the disability community. We honor and respect everyone's choice in how they choose to identify, and throughout today's forum, both identity and person first language may be used in accordance with the preferences of the community being discussed during each presentation. We do offer interpretation and closed captioning services. For Spanish interpretation, look for your Zoom toolbar close to the bottom of your screen. Then click on Interpretation and select ES Spanish. For captions in English, on your Zoom toolbar, select Show Captions. And for captions in languages other than English, on your Zoom toolbar, look for Show Captions and click on the up arrow. Then select Translation at the top and click My Caption Language to choose your preferred language. If you would like to see English and your preferred language, click on Show Original and Translated Captions. Today's forum will feature 5 total presentations, including 5 faculty of the UCLA Tarjan Center, or rather 4 faculty of the UCLA Tarjan Center, and a highly regarded community advocate. Presentations will be followed by reflections from discussants who are individuals with lived experience or family members of individuals with neurodevelopmental disabilities. They will share about their experiences and comment on the presentation. After that, we'll have Q&A moderated by various UCLA Tarjan Center faculty. I would like to now go over our schedule for the day, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So we will begin in the morning with some remarks from our director, Dr. Elizabeth Lageson, who will provide a brief introduction to the UCLA Tarjan Center for those of you who are unfamiliar with us. This introduction will then be followed by our advocate keynote lecture presented by Russell Lehman, who is an activist, motivational speaker, and acclaimed author and poet for autism, mental health, and disabilities. Russell will present on how expression leads to self-empowerment, followed by a 30-minute Q&A facilitated by Dr. Lageson. We will take a 15-minute break from 10:30 to 10:45. After that break, our faculty keynote lecture will be given by Dr. Kathy Lord, who is the George Tarjan Distinguished Professor of Psychiatry at the UCLA Seminole Institute of Neuroscience and Human Behavior. Dr. Lord will present on early intervention in autism, what matters most. Katie Dungan will serve as our discussant, and Q&A will be moderated by myself. We'll then take a lunch break from 12 to 1 o'clock. When we return from our lunch break, the UCLA Tarjan Center Director of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Dr. Brandon Ito, will present on intersectional identities and neurodiverse youth. Josh Cho from the University of Massachusetts, Boston, will serve as our self-advocate discussant, and I will be moderating the Q&A. We'll then take a break from 2:15 to 2:30. When we return, the UCLA Tarjan Center Director of Research, Dr. Rujita Wilson, will present on motor and behavioral development in genetic neurodevelopmental conditions. Laura Bedmave will serve as our discussant, and Q&A will be moderated by Tarjan Center faculty, Dr. Lauren Clark. Following a break at 4 o'clock, Tarjan Center Post-Secondary Education and Employment Specialist, Dr. Christine Moody, will present on creating college success, support steps and strategies for neurodivergent students. Amanda Marroquin will serve as our discussant, and Q&A will be moderated by our Director of Outreach and Dissemination, Dr. Yasmin Valorian. We will wrap up the forum with closing remarks. And this forum truly aims to foster discussions among self-advocates, families, and professionals. We encourage our audience to be active participants throughout our forum and to share your questions and comments in the presentations throughout the day. A little bit of housekeeping before we move on. To send questions and comments to our speakers or regarding our program, on your Zoom toolbar, click on the button that says Q&A and type in your questions. Our moderators will respond directly or include your questions during the speaker Q&A as time permits. The chat function, though, will be closed, so do put your questions into the Q&A. The forum presentations will be recorded and posted onto our website with the slides in approximately 3 weeks after our forum. You will be sent an email when the presentations are available online. After today's forum, you will be sent a link to our evaluation survey. Your feedback, comments, and suggestions are incredibly valuable to us, and we would love to hear from our audience on how we may improve the forum in future years. We have about 1,103 registrants for today. Thank you all for being a part of our forum in neurodevelopmental disabilities and for continuing to support the work of the Tarjan Center. And with that, I will hand things over to our wonderful Dr. Elizabeth Lageson, who is the director of the UCLA Tarjan Center.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Estabillo. As Jasper mentioned, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Lageson, and I'm the director of the UCLA Tarjan Center. I'd like to welcome everyone to our annual forum in neurodevelopmental disabilities. And the purpose of this forum is to feature UCLA Tarjan Center faculty and other nationally and internationally renowned speakers to share the latest developments in research, clinical best practice, and policy, and also to encourage dialogue across researchers, clinicians, families, and self advocates about critical issues in the field of neurodevelopmental disabilities. So, as we begin the day, we'd like to start by acknowledging our partners at UCLA, who include the UCLA Center for Autism Research and Treatment, also known as CART, the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Research Center, also known as IDDRC, and UC Lend, who focus on leadership and education in neurodevelopmental disabilities. We'd also like to thank our community partners, particularly the State Council on Developmental Disabilities and Disability Rights California, and our other federal partners, including the University Centers for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities at UC Davis Mind Institute and USC, all of whom helped to make this forum possible. Now, as director of the UCLA Tarjan Center, I not only feel fortunate to work with these amazing community and academic partners like the ones I just mentioned, but I also feel extremely grateful to work with an incredibly dedicated staff and highly respected faculty. So before we begin, I'd like to share a brief background about the Tarjan Center if you're new to our community. So, the UCLA Tarjan Center is a federally designated university center for excellence in developmental disabilities in education, research, and service. And the mission of the Tarjan Center is to advance the self determination, inclusion, and quality of life among the diversity of people with disabilities and their families. So, we essentially serve as a bridge between the resources of UCLA and local, state, and international organizations, agencies, policymakers, and people with disabilities and their families. So, in addition to attending our forum today, we hope that the discussions here will inspire you to continue to join and engage with us through our research studies, clinical services, and educational and community outreach events. And this includes our monthly Tarjan Center Distinguished Lecture Series and Language podcast, both of which are free and open to the public. So if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to visit our website or our social media for upcoming events and also a library of previously recorded distinguished lectures and podcasts.